Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be quite a different video actually than I've been doing this season. But today, guys, we're going to be reacting to my predictions from earlier on in the season. So if you do cast your mind back around about 6 months ago, I did try and predict the championship table before a ball was kicked, and I think it's fair to say I came out with some interesting predictions there. As well as I also made another prediction video about a month or so into the season and tried to get a bit better at some of my predictions. So today, guys, we're going to be going ahead and looking back at some of them, but it's not just me who may be getting a bit embarrassed about this one. We are also going to be looking back at some of your guys' comments from those videos. So I went ahead and scrolled through all the comments from those videos, and it's fair to say some of you guys had some interesting opinions at the start of the season as well. So guys, if you do go in to enjoy the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do leave a comment in the comments down below as to, at the start of the season, what was your worst prediction? Because I'd be quite interested to know. You know, I think we had a couple of people predicting Wolves to get relegated. We had a couple of people predicting Sunderland to go up automatically. So we had some shockers at the start of the season. So before we do go ahead and look at some of my predictions from earlier on in the season, this is how the championship table is currently looking. Of course, we played 38 games in the championship, and more or less this is how it's going to look come the end of the season. Of course, there will be a couple of clubs changing from position to position, but we can more or less gauge where every club will be from now until the end of the season. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at some of my shouts. So first of all, look at the video that I was predicting before a ball had been kicked in the championship. So take into consideration the transfer window hadn't shut at this point, and there was still a bit of business going on as well. So let's have a look at who I predicted to finish in the bottom three. Coming in as the bottom three, I have gone ahead and put Bolton, Burton Albion and Millwall. Now, it's not a brilliant way to start out this video, is it? But let's get the positives out of the way first. I did predict Burton to finish in 23rd. That's where they're currently sat in the table, so that's maybe not be a bad shout. Bolton had bottom of the championship, of course. In fairness to me, they have surprised me this season. They have been better than I thought they would. You know, they've adapted quite well, actually, and are quite a hard side to actually beat. But the really bad shout from that one is Millwall. Oh, God. I predicted Millwall to finish in 22nd place, and they are currently sat 10th in the championship, just 4 points off the playoffs. So Millwall fans, I apologise for predicting you guys to get relegated at the start of the season, of course. In fairness to me, there were quite a few other people who were predicting this, but Neil Harris has just worked some absolute wonders with that squad. So Millwall fans, I can only apologise, but that was a pretty bad shout from me. Then here were the sides who I was predicting to finish from just above relegation. So once again, some pretty dodgy shouts in here. We had QPR, Barnsley, Sheffield United, Ipswich and Bristol City. So out of those teams, the ones I'll be probably most disappointed with are Bristol City and Sheffield United, of course. Both of them are challenging for the playoffs this season, and I thought they'd be in and around the relegation zone. That's of course not been the case. QPR, I was a bit harsh on. They've of course been better than that this season. They're a comfortable mid-table side, really. Barnsley, that's more or less where I think they'll finish this season though, so that's not the worst shout in the world. Ipswich, once again, they're a better side than that. They're probably about mid-table, but Bristol City, they have been a pretty surprise package this season, I've got to admit that now. Sheffield United as well, they really did take me by surprise, you know. There was at one point where they were about 3rd in the table and were really knocking on the door for automatic, so some of them a bit dodgy. Then making up the squads who I was predicting to finish in the rest of that mid-table zone, we then had Nottingham Forest, Sunderland, Preston, Hull and Birmingham. So yeah, there's some dodgy ones in here as well. Nottingham Forest is more or less spot on. I think they will be around about 16th this season. Sunderland in 15th. That was not a brilliant shout from me. Although, in fairness to me, you would not believe it how many people at the start of the season were predicting Sunderland to finish in the top 6. And I got quite a bit of stick for predicting them to finish in 15th that season. So, yeah, Sunderland, they just went off the rails, really. Preston in 14th will be a bit higher than that. Hull in 13th. In fairness to me, I think that if someone like Abel Hernandez didn't pick up an injury like he did for the majority of this season, they might be a bit closer to that. Birmingham in 12th, that was a pretty bad shout from me, of course. After the transfer window they had, I thought they'd be a lot better, really. But with the way, you know, it's Harry Redknapp, really. He was never going to be brilliant for them, was he? Then if we look at the side who I was predicting to finish just outside the playoffs, we then had Cardiff, Wolves, Reading, Derby and Brentford. Oh dear, what was I thinking with this one? First of all, Cardiff in 11th place. In fairness, not many people were anticipating Cardiff to get automatic promotion this year, you know. And I even said in this video that I thought thought they could be a dark horse. So I already had a bit of an inkling that Cardiff may be doing some bits this season, but Wolves in 10th. I mean, that's a pretty poor shout, to be honest, isn't it? I feel like it may take them a bit of time to transition into the squad that Nuno actually wants them to be. So for that reason, I feel like they will be sat back a little bit from the chasing pack at the top of the table. Reading in 9th, that's a pretty poor shout from me. Of course, they could still go down this season, realistically. Derby in 8th, that's not a bad shout from me. Brentford in 7th, once again, not the worst shout in the world. Then if we look at the sides, who I was predicting to finish in the top 6 this season. So in 6th place, I was predicting it to be Leeds United. Now, in fairness, at this point, they did still have Chris Wood in that side. They made a couple of decent additions, and I thought that their manager would be quite good. And with the way Leeds started this season, I thought that that was a pretty good prediction as well, but lately they've definitely tailed off. Aston Villa in 5th, that's a pretty good prediction. I didn't think that they'd be able to get automatic this year, but I thought they would be in and around the playoffs, so that's not a bad shout. Norwich in 4th is a really peculiar one. I'm not sure why I predicted them in there. I'm not going to lie, of course. And I mean, they got Daniel Farke coming into the squad. They got quite a few German players. I think the reason I put them there was purely based on Huddersfield, really. I saw that Huddersfield had done it with a German manager and quite a few German players. I thought Norwich should follow the same path, but that hasn't really worked out for them so far this season. Fulham in 3rd, I mean, what a shout that is. That is a pretty good shout from me, if I do say so myself. Then the top 2 I was predicting, coming in at 2nd place, I was predicting it to be Sheffield Wednesday. What was I thinking with this one? They are currently sat 17th in the Championship, and I was predicting them to finish 2nd, which is a bad shout from me, I'm not going to lie about that. I was just thinking, after, you know, 2 unsuccessful playoffs attempts, I thought this would finally be the year for them, that they went ahead and clutched that 2nd place, but injuries had a pretty big, you know, reason to deal with it, and a couple of other factors as well, but realistically, they were never going to finish in 2nd, were they? And then in that 1st place, I was predicting it to be Middlesbrough. Now, in the comments of this video, we'll look at some of them in a minute. Quite a few people were, you know, predicting Middlesbrough to finish in 1st as well, so I don't feel too embarrassed about that. They're, of course, currently sat 6th in the Championship, and Middlesbrough, you know, I think they spent about 50 million in that transfer window. They brought in quite a lot of good signings, actually, to my opinion, so I thought that they'd go and just boss the league, but that just wasn't the case, was it? So looking over that list, what do you guys think of my predictions? Do you think I was completely clueless about the Championship? I think that some of them are alright, you know, I got some pretty spot on. Others, though, I was way off. I also then went ahead and made a 2nd prediction video about a month or so into the Championship, and this was how I was predicting the table to finish then. So I had made quite a few considerable changes 1 month in, you know. I had Fulham, who I thought would win the Championship. Of course, they're in 3rd, so not the worst shout from me. Leeds I had in 3rd. Wolves, in fairness to me, I did move Wolves up, but I moved them up from 10th into 4th place. I still didn't have that feeling they were going to go on to get automatic, but I did move them up to 4th. Cardiff I had in 5th as well. Villa I had in 6th. I still had some pretty shocking shouts when we look at the middle of the Championship, definitely, you know. I had Birmingham in 11th place, Hull in 12th, and Sunderland in 15th. So with some of those sides, you know, they're all big clubs. I thought they'd do a lot better this season, especially with some of the squads that they had. You know, I thought they'd all be pretty stable this year. And Millwall, in fairness to me, I did predict them to just survive, but of course they've done a bit better than that this season. So guys, there were my shouts from earlier on in the season. So let me know down below, what do you think was my best and worst prediction? But enough of that, guys. Let's now move on into looking over some of your guys' comments from earlier on in the season. And I think it's fair to say we've got some interesting ones. NUFC Boy 01 just said straight up Sunderland will go down, and yeah, he was pretty spot on with that one, to be honest. That got 112 likes, so clearly a lot of people were agreeing with it, or a lot of Newcastle fans were watching that video, but in fairness to him, he's got that pretty spot on. Football Fan 11 was quite angry that I put Reading in 9th, of course. He must have thought that they would have finished further up the table. He put Reading 9th. What's that all about, Ben? I mean, realistically, I should have put them a lot lower. These have to be some of the most bold shouts I've seen from a prediction video. This was from Spitfire. He had Wolves to come first, which, fair enough, they've gone ahead and done that probably. He then put Hull in 2nd, Middlesbrough in 3rd, Norwich in 4th, and Sunderland in 6th place. And then to get relegated, he had Aston Villa, Millwall, and Burton Albion. I mean, those were some pretty bold shouts, it's fair to say. This is what Zia had to say on the video. He said, "You have lost your player of the year and you do not score goals. You hyped on about Preston having a good defence, then you totally missed out the fact that you have actually scored 1 goal from open play in 5 Championship games. Preston have no chance of getting into the top 10. Well, when you look at the current table, I think we do have a pretty good chance." Richie Flynn said Preston 10th. Jeez, how biased are you? I mean, I don't know what this all about. A lot of people, I got a lot of hate for predicting Preston to finish in 10th place. But I thought that was a reasonable finish for us, you know. We're now higher than that in the table, and I got called biased for it, but I don't know, obviously a lot of people weren't thinking the same earlier on. We had another person thinking Reading would make the playoffs again this year, and quite a few people at the start of the season, you know, were backing Reading to go ahead and get back-to-back playoffs under Jaap Stam. That's of course not been the case, and of course we've recently seen Jaap Stam being fired by Reading as well. So Reading fans, I'd be interested to hear down below as to what do you think's gone so wrong for you this season. Life at the Lane said, what's the point in having a championship channel when your predictions are this bad? I mean, I didn't think they were that bad. We then had Josh Forrest 8, a Nottingham Forest fan, saying Preston won't finish above us.
That's just totally wrong. It's just like wrong. This is wrong.
So when we have a
not true. It's just not true.
I had a couple of Bolton fans that were quite angry that I was predicting them to get relegated. One of them saying, we will prove you wrong. And in fairness to them, they have done that. So fair play to Bolton. I apologise for predicting you guys to get relegated. And overall, I have been quite impressed by Bolton this year. We also had Thomas Roberts saying that Leeds have the best midfield in the Championship. And then we'll end it on a positive one. We had William Limbrick who said Cardiff for promotion. I think fair play to him. Not a lot of people were anticipating Cardiff to be as good as they have been this season, but he went ahead and predicted them for promotion, and it's looking like that'll be the case. So guys, there you have it. That'll wrap it up for this video. So as I said, this was just for a bit of fun really. So if you did go on to enjoy the video, guys, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you subscribe for some regular Championship content. But other than that, guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.